Humans of the cardboard, welcome back to Just Nuts, guys. Today we need to talk about Tactical Masters. This set kind of got caught in the tailwind of Power of the Elements just because everybody was so excited for that set. Such a format warping set. It's already paying dividends. But this set is 2 weeks later. I mean, pretty much 3 weeks later, I guess, technically. And now we're 2 weeks away. And it's a cool deck build pack. I think there's some interesting stuff going on here. We'll talk about the 3 archetypes. We'll talk about the reprints. And just in general, whether or not you should be considering buying this set or anything in it. Very, very cool. So let's start off here by jumping in. Konami's been doing a good job with deck build packs, just in general. I mean, if you go back to like Secret Slayers, Emancipator, and Eldritch immediately took over the meta, and now even Rika is arguably like the most powerful of the 3. Who would have thought? The last deck build pack had stuff like the Adventure Engine in it. That's still seeing play. Punk, one of the best decks in the format, / engines in the format, as well as Exorcister, which we thought was like one of the worst archetypes we've gotten in a while. Turns out, no, it's actually one of the best picks after 2 quick waves of support. Good to go. So I do think Konami's going to pay some good mind to these decks, and we'll see that going down the line. So starting off here, let's look at Valance. This is the first archetype of the 3, and in my opinion, the most lackluster of the 3. But that being said, Pendulum is Pendulum. We see a lot of times Pendulum decks just end up being Pendulum good stuff. Like, they just combine the most powerful engines Pendulums can really combine to make it work. This engine is not bad, especially when we get the new spell in the next core set, Darkwing Blast. That'll make this engine even more interesting. But even just what they have right now, they do get you like material on board without normal summon. You just have to worry about the restrictions. So I don't know if a standard Pendulum like combo build would be able to abuse this engine, but I do think there are some builds. People have thrown out the idea of like this deck with Zephyrs definitely have some like potential pairing like aspects to them, synergies. But yeah, it just comes down to that. They all can most of them can summon themselves from the scale to the zone or to the column they're in. Some of them, when they're moved, get you like a bonus effect. They're good. I mean, they're solid. They do some interesting things. We'll have to see. They're definitely going to need more support down the line, in my opinion, to actually have a chance at really seeing play in any fashion competitively. But, they're still cool in their own right. They have like that ninja / 3 kingdoms kind of, lore thing going on for them. It's cool. Next up here, we move to our trap deck. Of course, we got to get a new trap deck. This is lovely Labyrinth of the Silver Castle. She represents the new deck, Labyrinth. This is the one that I personally am most excited for. You guys know I love the purple. It's a cool deck. It is a fiend-based archetype that pretty much pushes out a lot of resources on the opponent's turn. It really makes use of a lot of normal traps that remove monsters from the field, and then they gain a ton of extra advantage when those effects resolve. But yeah, at the end of the day, the only downside of this deck is that it's a trap deck, which tends to be slow, which means you can get lost in a format that's too fast, and that's definitely a possibility. I'm still going to mess around with it, see what I can do, but still a cool deck. I think it's really strong for what it is. It may come in as like one of the new strongest trap decks around, maybe in that Dinomorphia range of like playability. They have their own trap card that summons any of their archetypal cards straight out of the deck, which is really good. They don't have a single card that's like an immediate interruption, which is the one downside from it, but they have a lot of other utility and ways to get interruption, so that's not usually the big concern there. But pretty cool deck, for sure. Really excited to mess around with them. And yeah, they're your second archetype. I do think they could fit in a rogue category, kind of like Dinomorphia. And then we move to Runic. This is the final archetype here. This one I think has the most splashability potential to it. Just because this deck does not have any main deck monsters, so it does not take up your normal summon, does not lock you into really anything. The only drawback to any of its cards is essentially by playing the engine. Anytime you use one of their quick play spells, they lock you out of your next battle phase, which is pretty tough. It means it can be long and hard, a hard journey to kind of actually get into your opponent's life points. Even if you're controlling a duel, if your opponent can at least force you and bait out one of your quick plays, they're going to pretty much lock you out of another battle phase. So you can run away with advantage, but you just might not be able to actually get in as fast as you want to. So that's kind of the drawback there. But it's a really cool engine. If you want to play this deck in its like pure sense, you're going to try and mill your opponent out. But to be honest, I don't think the deck does that fast enough. I do think there is some merit to it in the bonus effect of like, oh, I'm playing a combo deck like Punk that plays like multiple one-ofs, or my opponent plays Gamma. If I end up banishing something like a driver off the top of their deck or whatever, you may lock them out of certain plays and cap off the ceiling of their deck just because you banish the right essential combo pieces that they need in their deck or hand to be able to play, which is cool. So that can be the bonus. Even if you don't mill them out, you kind of just lock them out of really playing their strategy to its full effect and go from there. But it's a really cool engine. Doesn't take your normal summon. I've seen people try and splash this with Sky Strikers. I've seen people try to splash this with Magical Musketeers as an engine. I really think it's cool, and it loops resources really well with the field spell. Pretty good overall. I think it could see play. I think in the OCG we saw a decent amount of players trying to play this as like a Hulk strategy, kind of like how we used to see like Hulk Eldritch decks play, where you would try to do this combo, right? A Hulk combo that gets you multiple negations. Your opponent has to hand trap it if they have one. And then if they do and you don't resolve it, you just kind of would set your Eldritch traps and just go, okay, I'll play a grind game. Whereas this deck kind of does the same thing, right? You could potentially play it with another engine that really has a high impact play that is going to force out interruptions. And when they do, you just then start like playing Runic cards and potentially set up the loop to draw multiple cards off of Fountain and then get 1 to 2 of the spells in hand. So that way you're just set up for interruptions and kind of go from there, which is pretty cool idea. I would need to see it in action. I need to see what people would actually try to run it with, because of course once you do and you maintain control, you have to at least go a full cycle without activating any of your quick plays so that you can finally get in for damage on your opponent's turn. So that's the one drawback, but still a really cool, interesting archetype. I'm very curious to see what people do with that. I think this one could have the most potential competitively just because it is so splashable, but I do still think Labyrinth we'll see a little bit of play. Not a ton, but like fringe rogue play. And then we get to the one other card as far as like new cards go. So this card is technically lumped in with the Labyrinth cards, but it doesn't have Labyrinth in the name, so it's not searchable via their stuff that searches in archetype cards. They have other ways to like set generic traps, but this is a Fiend support card. It kind of goes hand in hand with Fiend Griefing. This card says, if you control a Fiend monster, target one card on the field, as cost, destroy it, then you can send one Fiend monster from your deck to the graveyard. So instead of shuffling a card back from grave and then sending a monster, you actually just get to pop a card on field, which is really, really sweet. Adds a little bit of extra versatility to that like slot that you would be allocating. I think in general, popping a card on field is a little bit better than popping or than shuffling something from grave. Kind of depends on the matchup, but generally I would lean that way overall. But yeah, I mean, being able to send, this is technically Burning Abyss support. This could be technically Lair of Darkness support. This could technically be Archfiend support, right? And there's probably other stuff too. Maybe even Unchained support, right? There's really some stuff. It's a Mystic Mine out, and all you have to do, the only drawback to it is that you have to control a Fiend to activate it. You cannot just fire it freely. Oh my gosh, if you could, it'd be so good. This card would be so good if you could fire this card freely. And even Absolute King Backjack is another way to like really make really powerful value off this card. But yeah, it's a Fiend support card, generic Fiend support. Won't be surprised if we see this in other decks as well on the Rogue level, or if we ever get a new Fiend deck, this could be something interesting. Just throwing it out there, just so you know. So now we go back and we'll look at some of the reprints here. I do remember seeing that there were some pretty good ones. So starting off at 40 here is where we see our first reprint. We have Astrograph Sorcerer. Interesting card here that they would give a collector's rare to Astrograph. I mean, I know we have it at, I believe, 1 now on the ban list, but maybe this hints at Konami bringing it off even further. I know we have a ban list that should be coming in the next couple weeks, month or so. That could be something to happen. Book of Eclipse, nothing too crazy there. Senate Switch, that kind of goes with the Valance cards. Scapegoat, fine. I don't even know what Scapegoat. I guess it's like a Runic card. Like, play the game slow, play a grind game, but if you resolve Scapegoat, then you just get to make a big link play on your next turn. I don't know, I guess. Compulse, this goes with the Labyrinth archetype. Trap Trick as well for the Labyrinth stuff. Low rarity Trap Trick. Invader of Darkness, that's an old card. They're probably just reprinting because it hasn't been printed in so long. Droll and Lock with a rare and a collector's rare. That's going to definitely be a nice card to pick up. It seems like whenever we're in a format where Droll is popular, which we are not currently in, by the way, every copy of Droll, even like commons or and stuff like that, like the lowest rarity copies of Droll, like end up being worth a good little bit. So that's definitely a good one. Absolute King Batjack, another good one for sure. That's a really cool card that comes up in like really cool strategies like BA. Maybe even the new Labyrinth deck. Lilith, I think this is Lilith's literal first reprint since it came out in the Lair of Darkness structure deck way back when. That is an awesome one, really, really cool one. I would definitely pick her up if you think that's interesting. Bear Blocker, whatever. Malice, poop. Quick Booster, poop. Cosmic Cyclone's cool, and it also gets a collector's rare here, so definitely some cool stuff there. Cosmic has been in and out of like a lot of different formats over the last couple for sure. As a Mystic Mine out, as a card that can kind of respond to the Adventure Engine, this could definitely be something going forward as well. Pendulum Fusion, okay. Duelist Alliance is interesting here. I have like common Duelist Alliances, so like this would even be a rarity upgrade over mine. That's cool, you know, obviously for the Valance stuff. Anti-Spell, which is kind of a bummer to me when I saw this, because I think this kind of hints to the fact that Konami's not going to hit Anti-Spell on the ban list, this upcoming ban list. I just don't think they would reprint this and then do it. Also, very, very funny that Konami would print a collector's rare Anti-Spell fragrance, the same exact set that they print a Pendulum archetype that absolutely gets booty destroyed by Anti-Spell. It's just amazing. Reckless Greed, Old Trap, Imperial Iron Wall, cheeky side deck card sometimes. Fiend Griefing, like I mentioned before, with the new the Archfiend Glitch card. And then Pendulum Switch as the final card there. So a couple of nice ones in there. Obviously, Anti-Spell's cool. Cosmic Cyclone, pretty cool. Lilith, Backjack, and Droll. Even stuff like Trap Trick is like small, nice things. And even Astrograph, too. Like, this could be nice, especially if they bring it off the ban list. Because I believe at multiple, this card gets a lot more interesting in Pendulum decks. But we'll obviously have to see what people come up with. But all in all, I think it's a solid one. I mean, listen, if you had asked me at the beginning of the year about the last deck build pack with Adventure, Exosisters, and Punk, I would have told you this is weak as heck. Punk seems so normal summon reliant, it's awful. Well, what happened after that? We got E-Telly to 3, and now it's like one of the best engines we've played in a while. Adventure, I thought the restriction on it was going to be too restrictive. I thought too many decks needed the normal summon. Not true. That has been one of the most splashful engines we've ever seen in the game. Huge success competitively. And now Exosister. Gave them support 2 sets later, and now they are legit like a top 5 deck in the game. So I say this. Out the gate, I think Valance is not that great. I think it's going to, like, the new spell card in Darkwind Blast is really nice for their engine, very necessary for them, so I don't think we'll see them do much until at least that card, but we might need another little wave in the following set, Photon Hypernova. I think Labyrinth has a cool rogue potential as a trap variant. We will never see this in Tier 1, probably. We're not going to see a lot of trap decks in Tier 1, unless there's something to the level of, like, Eldritch or something. They make a weird trap deck that can play going second really well, inherently, and just not be overly slow. But I still think it is really strong when it pops off. The next card they get in Darkwing Blast is really good card for them. And again, if they're this good right out the gate, maybe one more card in Photon Hypernova, 2 more cards in Photon Hypernova, and this archetype is like even better, right? Who knows? And then Mr. Rune. Doesn't take your normal summon. It seems like the most splashable of the 3. The drawback is a legit concern, especially when it comes to tournament play, because I think this will deter a lot of people from wanting to take this archetype to a competitive event, worrying about going to time when you play a deck that cannot go battle phase a lot of times on your opponent can definitely be a big worry. So we'll see. I think that's going to be a really interesting one to watch. I think the power level is there, and if you were allowed to play hour-long rounds instead of 40 minutes, I think a lot of people would look more at this deck because I think it would have a high win rate. I just think a lot of people are going to be too worried, too nervous to go to time. A lot of players are going to avoid that just because of that. So I think all that, plus the handful of nice little reprints in there, nice little collector's rare, pretty good. I think it's a mid-level set right now. If things are cheap and you're interested in them, I would pick them up if they look good at a good price for you. But keep in mind, we saw the adventure stuff. Like, as soon as people realized the adventure engine was like crazy from like the OCG, skyrocketed. As soon as we found out Punk was good, now Foxy Tune is crazy expensive. Even the other two high level ones are both like $6 and like $9 like a piece, and you got to play them at 3 if you're playing the pure variant. So that stuff can skyrocket quick as soon as people figure out that it's crazy, and you know, you just want to be ahead of the curve for sure. So those are my thoughts there. That's what I think. I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts down below, though. How do you feel about Tactical Masters? Where do you feel it with it as a set? Deck build packs are so hard to buy sealed, just because if you're only interested in one archetype, if you just pull weak on that one archetype, you're kind of shit out of luck unless you pulled like so crazy, maybe a collector's rare or something, that you could make your value back. But as far as like personal value and like getting the cards you want, you're probably just better off doing singles for most deck build packs. That's generally how I go about it. So yeah. But yeah, those are my thoughts there, guys. Let me know your thoughts down below in the comments section down there, and I will see you in the next video. Thank you so much for watching. Subscribe if you haven't. Peace.